Hello everybody, it's Hannah from Yarn User Gal, and today I'm going to show you how to make this really easy, beginner-friendly headband. So you're going to need your yarn and crochet hook. I'm using a 5mm hook because that's what size my yarn needs. A tapestry needle for doing some finished work, and a pair of scissors. So to begin your headband, what you're going to want to do is make a slip knot. So to do that, you wrap the yarn around your fingers twice and cross right there. And now you reach your hook under this first loop and over the second, then pull the second loop through the first loop. And then slide it off your fingers and tighten it down. And then pull it so that it's tight on your hook. Not super tight, just tight enough where it's not too big, where it can slide around. Now you're gonna do some chains. So I don't know how thick you want your headband to be. So the thicker you want it, the more chains you're gonna do. So just start chaining, but make sure you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that's how wide I want my headband to be. And then to start it, I'm going to single crochet. So to single crochet, you put your yarn, your hook I mean, through the chain, and I actually like going in the back bump because especially when you're seaming, that gives a nice flat edge to the chain. So you work in the back bump of this first chain here. It might be a little tough, and if your chains are too tight, then try going up a hook size when you're doing your chaining. Alright, then yarn over and pull through just that chain, just the back bump, and then yarn over and pull through those loops. So there's one stitch. Now we're gonna do that in each back bump along this whole row of chains. So we just worked in there. So we're gonna go to the next one right here. It's sort of hard to get your hook in there, but once you do it, it'll be so much nicer of a bottom edge once your project is finished. I especially like doing it when I'm seaming it up because it'll be sort of hard to see where you're seaming if you've worked in like the top chain, because then it's just this little bottom chain that you have to seam. We're going to be seaming this together at the end, by the way. So you just single crochet along this whole row, and the rows are going to be almost the same. They're all going to have single crochet. But this first row is going to be different because here we're working into the chains, and the next row we're working into these actual stitches that we're making right now. And make sure that your yarn doesn't split when your hook goes in it. Like if like you stick your hook in and it only gets like 1 or 2 strands, like that, take your hook back out and put it through the whole strand of yarn so that it doesn't, because if you put it through the whole strand, it'll look a lot nicer. And then if you only put it through like 1 strand, then since there's so much pulling on that 1 strand, I mean the like one little tiny strand of this strand of yarn, if you just get that little string of the strand, then your work might fall apart because the strand could break. Okay, so now we have 1 row, and look, that's the bottom edge. It looks the same as the top. That's what happens when you work in the back bumps. Okay, so to start the next row, what you would normally do with single crochet you would chain one and turn, but we're gonna have flat edges. We're doing like really flat edges, so we're not doing any chain. If you really want to chain, then that's fine. You just chain one and then turn your work, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna turn and then start working into the stitches. So we're gonna make it ridged. So the way we do that is normally you would work into both of these legs of the V. Like you can see if you tip it like that, you can see a bunch of V's stacked up. We would normally go into, whoops, my hook came out. We would normally go into both strands of that V, but to make it ridged, we're just gonna go into one. So you just go in the back, just that, not that, okay? So you stick your hook in the back strand, yarn over, pull through the back strand, yarn over, and pull through those loops. Okay, now just go in the back strand. We're gonna do this the whole way across, and then you'll be able to see how ridged it is. Make sure you work into only the back bump, the back leg, and not both or the front, because if you do the front, then the ridge is going to be on the other side. So we're doing the back. Look, you can already tell. That makes this nice ridge here. And then the next row is going to be the same as this row. You just go in the back of each stitch. You're just repeating the same thing over and over. Whoops. My yarn didn't come through. All right, and then this last one, since we didn't do the chain at the beginning, it's gonna be a little hard to see, but it's right here, so just work that last one. And remember to count your foundation chain, because that's how many stitches you should have at the end of each row. So you can just count to make sure. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then here's my 10th. Again, it's a little hard to see since we didn't do the chain at the beginning. But you should have however many you started with, however many you chained. That's how many stitches you should have at the end of every row. So I'll show you another row. You just turn your work, or chain one and turn, but I'm just turning. And then you go straight into this first stitch, and remember, only the back leg. And just single crochet all across these back strands of the stitches. The tops of the stitches look like V's, so you can remember them that way if you want to. Make sure your tension is nice and even, because you don't want like a loose stitch and a tight stitch, or just like if you have tight tension, then you might want to go up a hook size for this whole project. And then like if you like pull at the end of every stitch or something, then it'll pull it down to what would happen if you use the right hook size. Otherwise, your stitches are going to be small. All right, we're coming up to this last little stitch here. And the last stitch is also the hardest to get into because it's sort of tight at the end since there's no chain. All right, so you can see that we're sort of getting a pattern. Once you get several more rows, you'll notice the pattern a little bit more. But since we're going in the back every time, but we're alternating which way, it's gonna have like the ridge on this side, and then we're gonna turn our work, and the ridge is gonna be on this side instead next time. It's sort of cool if you look on the side, because you can see it goes out over there, and then it goes out over there, and it'll look sort of like zigzag. Anyway, for the next row and all the other rows, you're just going to be repeating that that last row I showed you, row 3, for the rest of this pattern. And I'll show you one more row, and then I'll just let you crochet on your own for a while, and I'll crochet, and then I'll meet you back once I've finished all my rows and I'm ready to stitch it together. And there's lots of different ways to stitch it together, so I'll talk about that more later near the end of the video when I'm actually doing the seaming. But again, when you're doing your foundation chain, I find it really helps to work in the back bump. I do that with as many projects as I can. Unless it specifically says not to, but it doesn't really do that very much. That last stitch is so hard. Hold on, I can't really see that. Okay. Alright, there, I found it. Alright, so just repeat that for the whole circumference of your headband, and I will meet you in just a minute after I've worked up a lot more rows so that it fits my head. Alright, I'm just coming up to the last stitch here. And there are several different ways to seam this together. So I have this long blue strip. So I'm gonna be like seaming these ends together. So you could do like a whip stitch or a mattress stitch or a bunch of other techniques, but I'm just going to be slip stitching the sides together. So what you want to do, lay it out flat and then flip it over so that your hook is on this side, and then you're going to be turning it this way. Hold on, it's all tangled up in my yarn. Okay, and now I'm going to be seaming this together with slip stitches. So what I do first, there's this, so here's the foundation chain. That's what, remember we worked in the back bump, so it made this edge, it looks like the stitch edge. So you insert your hook into the first chain, and then you insert your hook into this first stitch on this side. Sorry, the yarn's in the way. And then yarn over and pull through the stitch and pull through that chain and pull through the first the loop that you had on your hook. And you do that in every stitch and foundation chain across. So you're going to be lining them up. So we just went into this one. You can see the yarn's coming from there. So we're going to go into the next one, which is right here. And it's going to be sort of hard to get your hook in the chain. That's just because chains aren't as loose as stitches are. It's going to be a lot easier getting it in the stitch. And when we're seaming, make sure you go into both of these legs of the V, both of the stitches, all the both strands of every stitch instead of just the back loop like we had been, because when you're seaming it, the seam will be looking different. So I guess have this in the back or wherever you're not going to be, where it's not visible, because the seam will look different. but you just slip stitch across this whole way. And I'll meet you back once I have slip stitched my way across this. Alright, I have my hook in the last stitches. I am working the last slip stitch. Once you've completed slip stitching your way across, you're going to fasten off. So the way to do that, you're going to chain one and then pull your hook up and out, and then cut your yarn. Make sure you leave a long enough tail to weave in, and then pull that tail through the chain and then pull it tight. Alright, and now you weave in these ends, these two ends, and I will meet up with you in just a second. Okay, so all my ends are woven in, and now I have this headband. So you can see the ridges. The pattern is on both sides. It's the same thing, and then the seam here, it is visible. So yeah, the seam's visible, but other than that, it's the same pattern throughout the whole headband. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. It would be great if you could subscribe, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye.